former Vice President Joe Biden. How late is it too late for him to get into this?
Look, if you were to go back over time, I could say he could potentially get in mid-year and still do okay. You know, he's someone who has a base within the Democratic Party. He's polling quite well at this particular point. He would be able to build an organization that perhaps other candidates who aren't as well known would be able to do. But the clock is obviously ticking. There are a lot of people who are in this race right now who are soaking up resources. So he'll eventually determine whether or not he wants to get in. But if he does get in, he'll start with a good base.
Let's talk about who got in this week. Bernie Sanders got into the race, raised a lot of money in a short period of time. But there is this effort by the DNC coming up next week to get the candidates to sign an affirmation document affirming that they will run as Democrats. He's getting a little bit of pushback in the party this time around for coming in as an independent after running as a Democrat. Now, an independent, is he going to stay a Democrat?
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, one of the key questions. Look, I think Bernie Sanders has said that he will run as a Democrat this time around. He will sign said document. But, you know, this is a Democratic primary. These are Democratic primary voters. And if you look back during the 2016 Democratic primary, what you saw was in the exit polls when people were asked whether or not they identified as a Democrat or independent, Bernie Sanders won independents overwhelmingly, but he lost self-identified Democrats overwhelmingly too, and they make up the vast majority of Democratic voters. And I think the big question this time around is, can he convince Democratic identified voters, both in the different states as well as different Democratic representatives, whether they be Gregory Meeks or Donna Shalala, that he is actually a Democrat? Because if he is not able to convince them of that, he simply won't be able to win where last time he lost.
All right, Harry Enten, we really treasure this time with you on Saturday.
I treasure it too, and I hope you guys have a lovely, lovely weekend. It really will warm my heart if you do.
We will do our best. Thank you, Harry.
Just for you, Harry. Thank you so much. All righty, Democratic Congressman John Sarbanes from Maryland with us now. Thank you so much, Congressman, for being with us. So you just heard that conversation. I want to ask you, do you believe Bernie Sanders should run as a Democrat?
Well, I think everybody who's seeking the Democratic nomination is obviously going to be in a stronger position if they run as a Democrat for the reasons that you just heard. We're going to have a very broad and diverse set of candidates on the Democratic side, a lot of very solid contenders, I think. So I'm actually excited by the field that's forming right now. I'm looking forward to the message that they're going to lean into, the themes that are going to be in this campaign as we run up to 2020, particularly this idea that many people across the country, not just Democrats, but independents, Republicans, feel like they kind of been locked out of the conversation in Washington. They look at politics. They feel sort of disenfranchised by the system, and they want back in. And we've certainly been working very hard on that to put forward a reform agenda that will give the average American his or her voice back in their own democracy.
So we know that when we talk about who's going to be running, Vice President Biden met privately with Senator Feinstein earlier this week on Thursday. She has said she believes he will run. He's also met with Hillary Clinton to get some guidance and advice from her. He's not the only one who is meeting with Hillary Clinton. Senator Amy Klobuchar, Senator Kamala Harris, Senator Cory Booker, Senator Elizabeth Warren, all seeking her guidance and advice and possibly her endorsement. How valuable is her endorsement in this?
It makes absolute sense that candidates that are running for the 2020 Democratic nomination would reach back and talk to the nominee from the last presidential election. So I understand why people are reaching out to Hillary Clinton. They're going to get some advice there and some insight and perspective based on the race that she ran and what happened in the 2016 election. This is all part of the exercise of candidates figuring out their path forward, as your earlier guest said.
Would you support
and whether
Vice
they
President
can be viable
Biden?
And competitive.
Would you support
What's that?
Would you support Vice President Biden if he jumped into the campaign?
I think many Democrats understand that we have an amazing field of candidates that are stepping forward, and we're going to see where the primary process takes us. There's no reason to jump the gun. I'm most interested at this stage in the message and the narrative that's being articulated by Democrats. And as I said to you before, this idea of reform and cleaning up the democracy, fighting corruption. We saw it in the 2018 election. You've got a lot of these presidential candidates that are leaning in on this idea of being corporate PAC free, which I think shows that they understand where the public is on these issues of who's got power in our democracy. We're putting forward H.R. 1, first order of business for the Democrats in the House, is a broad reform bill that will focus on cleaning up ethics, making sure people can vote without having to run an obstacle course to the ballot box, and insisting that big money is not the one that calls the shots in Washington. So we're very excited about the For the People Act, H.R. 1, and we think a lot of the presidential candidates are going to embrace that theme.
I was just going to ask you about H.R. 1. It has come under some scrutiny. The Washington Examiner and Adam Brandon wrote this. Under the guise of a more open electoral process, H.R. 1 rigs this game in favor of elected officials already in office and strives to censor the political speech of individuals and associations. Those who cherish the First Amendment should oppose this bill at every turn. And they assert that H.R. 1 would force taxpayers to fund congressional campaigns. To that you say what?
Well, on your first point, in terms of the First Amendment, this actually gives speech to a lot of Americans who feel they don't have any. Right now, the loudest voice in our politics comes from corporations and the big money players. The average person sits out there, they feel like they don't have a voice. H.R. 1 actually gives them that voice back. So if you want to talk about speech and the First Amendment, people ought to be supporting this kind of reform because it gives more power to everyday Americans. In terms of this matching system, small donor matching system that we want to set up that would allow candidates to turn to everyday Americans to power their campaigns, we've actually found a way to fund that system, not with taxpayers, but with lawbreakers. And so we're going to go after the folks that have been leaning on the system and breaking the law and ask them to pay an assessment. That goes into a fund, and that supports the kind of small donor matching that we've seen work across the country. So those criticisms, they just don't hold water. This is a bill that will lift up the voice of everyday Americans, give them their power back in their own democracy. People are hungry for this. That's why we made it the first order item coming off the 2018 elections. Every candidate running heard that fighting corruption was the #1 priority.
Congressman John Sarbanes, I'm sorry we've run out of time. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Do stay with us. Up next, controversy on campus. Alexandra Robbins talks about her new book, Fraternity, an inside look at a year of college boys becoming men.
And 3 generations, 2 presidents, 1 powerful family. The Bush Years, narrated by Ed Harris, premieres Sunday, March 3rd at 9 p.m. on CNN.
Adventure sales event is happening now. Land Rover, above and beyond.
Discover Card. I just got my cashback match. Is this for real?
Yep. We match all the cashback new card members earn at the end of their first year automatically.
Woo, I got my money.
Sorry to contain yourself, isn't it?
Uh-huh. Let it go. Woo.
Get a $1 match at the end of your first year, only from Discover.
In 1 week, a lot will happen in your life. Wrinkles just won't. Neutrogena Rapid Wrinkle Reveal younger looking skin. Neutrogena.
If you live with diabetes, why fingerstick when you can scan? With the Freestyle Libre 14-day system, just scan the sensor with your reader or iPhone and manage your diabetes. With the Freestyle Libre 14-day system, a continuous glucose monitor, you can check your glucose levels anytime without fingersticks. Ask your doctor to write a prescription for the new Freestyle Libre 14-day system. You can do it without fingersticks. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
Needles. Essential for pine trees, but maybe not for people with rheumatoid arthritis, because there are options, like an injection. Xeljanz XR. a once-daily pill for adults with moderate to severe RA for whom methotrexate did not work well enough. Xeljanz XR can reduce pain, swelling, and further joint damage, even without methotrexate. Xeljanz XR can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have tears in the stomach or intestines, serious allergic reactions, low blood cell counts, higher liver tests, and cholesterol levels. Don't start Xeljanz XR if you have an infection. Your doctor should perform blood tests before and while taking Xeljanz XR and monitor certain liver tests. Tell your doctor if you've been somewhere fungal infections are common, and if you have had TB, hepatitis B or C, or are prone to infections. Needles. Fine for some things. But for you, one pill a day may provide symptom relief. Ask your doctor about Xeljanz XR, an injection.
Book now and enjoy free unlimited open bar, free airfare, and more. Norwegian Cruise Line. Feel free.
Check out the Spring Fishing Classic at Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, where you can trade in an old rod and reel and save even more on a new one. Plus, huge savings, like 50% off spools of Berkeley Trilene Fluorocarbon line.
Isn't what goes into your soup just as important as what you get out of it? Our broccoli cheddar is made with aged melted cheddar, simmered broccoli, and no artificial flavors. Enjoy 100% clean soup today. Panera, food as it should be.
You're curious, always learning, always striving to be greater. And to be greater, you need to think greater with the Great Courses Plus at thegreatcoursesplus.com. The great new way to learn with award-winning college-level courses. Get unlimited access to thousands of topics to educate, enlighten, and empower you. And now you can try it free. Go online to thegreatcoursesplus.com or download the free app and start your free trial of the Great Courses Plus now.
Well, college campus Greek life, it's seen its fair share of scandals, right? Racism, violence, even death. These three pledges have died just since 2017. Timothy Piazza, 19 years old, died from drinking too much on his first night as a pledge. Maxwell Groover died from alcohol poisoning. Andrew Coffey died after another hazing incident. Well, Alexandra Robbins has written multiple books on this topic, and her most recent, Fraternity, an inside look at a year of college boys becoming men. I spoke to her earlier, and I asked her how prolific are these dangerous behaviors in fraternities today?
My researcher and I actually looked up every publicly reported online negative incident in fraternities from 2010 through 2018. And what we found is the vast majority of fraternity chapters are not committing these atrocities.
All right, so the Animal House image, I guess, of fraternities is no longer in existence?
You see it in some places, sure, but there is a good side to some fraternities, too. Because college guys are commonly led to believe that being a man means putting on a front of cool independence, they often feel like they can't open up to other guys. And studies show that college guys are lonely. So many fraternities that we don't see in the headlines are actually safe spaces that teach guys that it's okay to open up and that there are various healthy ways to be masculine.
Okay, but since 2017, I highlighted three deaths because of hazing that have happened. We've got Penn State's sophomore Timothy Piazza, Louisiana State University freshman Maxwell Groover. We have Florida State University suspended after Andrew Coffey died due to hazing. How prevalent are these moments?
Well, the last large-scale hazing study was back in about 2008.